Hi, hello and welcome from wherever you join me today. Yes, it's me again, Jim Black from the Three Hats Stage Media channel, trying to provide entertaining content media for all the world's stages. This is a Pause for Thought edition where I review one of my favourite movies and see what messages we can take from it and how we could use those insights in today's busy lives. They all come from a book or screenplay, have a great cast and a fantastic soundtrack. As you can see from the lightbox just to my side, today's movie is no exception. It's from 1997 and it's MouseHunt. It's written by Adam Rifkin and he's responsible for Small Soldiers as well as The Last Movie Star, which I think was Burt Reynolds' final movie, and I shall review that at some point in the future. There's an all-star cast. You've got Nathan Lane, he plays Ernie Schmunst, and he was in that great movie, The Producers, as well as The Birdcage, and he's a voice in The Lion King. Lee Evans, he plays Lars, he's Ernie's brother, and he's a stand-up comedian in his own right, and he was also in Something About Mary, a possible future review of mine on this channel. There's Vicky Lewis, she plays April, and she's the wife of Lars in this particular movie. She's also done voices for Rugrats, Finding Dory, and Ben 10, if you can remember that. There's one of my favourite actors, Christopher Walken. He plays Caesar, the exterminator, and he was King of New York, as well as in Hairspray, and who can forget Saturday Night Live sketch with Blue Oyster Cult and Will Ferrell. Not Enough Cowbell, for those of you that remember that. There's William Hickey. He plays Rudolph. He's the dad of the two brothers, and he's been a character actor in many movies since 1952. So I ask, is it right? What's the string that holds your world together? And can you learn from something that you think is a problem? Let's get into this review and find out. Do you ever look at your world and life and wonder how it's all kept together? What's the string that ties it all up into the neat little packages that you so like? Does it ever loosen? Does it ever break? Do things fall out? And does that really matter? Maybe we can learn from those things that do fall out. Because after all, life isn't about parcels tied up with string. For brothers Ernie and Lars, the string that held them together broke many years ago, and they both drifted off in their own ways. But can the death of their father, who owns a world-famous string factory, bring them back together? Can they learn to tie new knots and make this happen? And can an unexpected adversary help them find the way and maybe learn to tie new knots that will keep them together forever? Let's get into this review and look at the plot. This is another one of my favourite movies because it's well written, well acted and a great little story. It's slapstick humour at its best, and it will work on so many levels for many different ages. The actors that were chosen are just comedy actors at their best, and you'll find that out if you watch the movie. It starts at the funeral of their dad, Rudolph. He's the one that owns the famous string factory. And after the funeral, there's the reading of the will. This takes place back at the factory with Ernie, Lars and the solicitor. Obviously the string factory has been left to both of them to do whatever they want with. The dad hopes that they'll run it and turn it back into what it was once before. There's a ceramic ball and half a box of Cuban cigars. And of course, the little piece of string that was left to Lars by his dad. The two brothers have different ideas. One wants to sell it and one wants to run it. So what's going to happen there? But they also find, as they're going through all the papers, that there's a house that their dad got to pay a debt many years ago, and it's never been lived in. So I can't imagine what state that'll be in. Anyway, after the reading of the will, they both go their separate ways, and when April, Lars' wife, finds out that he's not going to sell it, she throws him out because she's a bit of a money grabber. She always thought that marrying the son, the heir of a string factory magnate, she'd have no money worries ever again. So Lars is on the streets. At the same time, his brother Ernie, who's a famous restaurateur and has got a reputation second to none for the food he cooks, has a bit of a problem with the dinner that the mayor orders. Let's just say it has fatal consequences. So Ernie loses his restaurant and ends up cooking in a diner. Lars goes in one day to talk to him. Ernie's not happy. They're both out on their ear, so what are they going to do? This is where they both decide to go up to the house and find out all about it. Because after all, they can't sleep on the streets. You know, it's cold. I think that's a representation as well of a time of year that's not happy for everybody. But that's just my view. At the house, they find it's a big old mansion. You know, one of those wooden built ones, somewhere out of town, near an American city. There's a single bed, which they both share, which is quite comical. And they're woken up by some noises. This is where they find that they've got a visitor. It's a mouse. And they must get rid of the mouse, because after all, how easy would that be? Just get rid of it and there's no more noise. However, the mouse believes that it's his house. It's where he lives. He's quite happy with it. And he doesn't want two people coming and changing things. They get somebody round to value the house and they find that it's a long lost LaRue house, which is a very famous architect and designer that is very desirable. So although they get offered some money for it first by somebody that wants it, they decide to have an auction. And this is where the movie is heading towards. In the meantime, there's a lot of escapades with the mouse, as you can imagine. They're not going to catch him easily, because this is quite a clever mouse. It's been there a long time and it knows all the ways round and the little holes to go through to outsmart the brothers. There's some great scenes with 800 mouse traps. There's another great scene with a fireplace, a gas supply and a box of matches. While all this is going on, Ernie is trying to sell the factory behind Lars's back. He's agreed to meet some businessmen that want to give him lots of money. If you remember, Lars wants to run it as a factory with his brother. So he goes to meet them. While he does this, he gets knocked over by a bus. I know that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if you watch the scene where he's acting up to the two ladies that he's trying to attract their attention of, and his hat blows off, you'll see what I mean about a bit of old-fashioned slapstick humour. It's almost Laurel and Hardy-like. He wakes up at the hospital with the two girls that he was trying to impress, who turn out to be sisters, and they end up being a part of the movie from this point on. Lars comes to pick him up, takes him back to the house, and they realise they've got a major problem with this mouse. What are they going to do? They're going to call the exterminator, Caesar, played by Christopher Walken. And a comedy at its best yet again. His dry delivery just says it all. He talks slowly, precisely, and takes you off in directions that you wouldn't have even thought of. Who's going to win there? The brothers have got an appointment and they must go. So Caesar is left at the house with the mouse. A few traps maybe, or maybe not. Anyway, let's just say this is comedy genius. And when the brothers come back, you'll find out that the mouse has won yet again. But you do need to watch it. And I do keep saying that because my descriptions are sometimes very vague. Anyway, after a bit of time, the brothers start to understand each other and they start to get things sorted out. They start to do the house up ready for the auction. And Ernie, who is obviously a famous chef, but not at the moment, cooks a dinner, and lo and behold, the mouse turns up. But this time, Ernie wins. The mouse gets stunned, or killed they think, so they put it in a package and send it off. So it's the day of the auction. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the mouse is returned because there wasn't enough postage paid on the package when it went off on its little holidays. Ernie and Lars don't know about this because it's left at the back door. It's quite a big do. There's canapes, drinks. They go to town on it. They've done up the house well and they're going to get the right price for it. Like I say, the only problem is the mouse has come back. And what's going to happen? Well, I can tell you, we're not quite at the end of the movie yet. One of the hats that the lady's wearing catches fire. It's put out, so don't worry, nobody gets hurt. From one of the plates of food, he sees that there's mouse droppings. So he knows the mouse is back. So now they've got to try and find it before it puts the whole auction in jeopardy. He decides to put a hose pipe into one of the holes in the wall. Now what could possibly go wrong there? He thinks he'll just flood the mouse out and it'll all be over. The bids will happen, the hammer will go down and they'll exchange. And then it doesn't matter what happens to the house. But what does happen is all the walls fill up with water. Now, it's a great scene, like I say. Slapstick isn't everybody's humour, but it'll make you laugh right deep down from your belly. And they're the best type of laughs to have. After all this is finished, the brothers are left with nothing. the house collapses, and everybody gets washed out. Everybody's very upset, as you can imagine. So the brothers end up going back to the factory to try and think about what the future could hold. They don't know that the mouse has hitched a ride on the car, because after all, it's got no home to live in now. Back at the factory, this is where the spoiler alarms are going off. And if I tell you any more, you'll find out what happens. Let's just say that the end of a story is always the beginning of a new. It involves Lars, Ernie and the mouse. And like I said, maybe you can learn from something else that not necessarily has to be a person. Things around us teach us all the time. Just look in the sky. Look in the papers. Look on the TV. Look at these movie reviews that I'm doing. Learn from anywhere you can. Always be kind to others. Always appreciate others. Always listen. And have a bit of time to talk to each other, because it will create a better world for you and those around you. Let's get into the trivia. The first bit I've got for you is the 800 mousetraps that they used in the scene that I told you about. All had to be set with bait. Let's just say it took several takes and lots of setting of lots of traps to capture the bit that you see in the movie. Did you know that two actors in this movie, Nathan Lane and Ernie Shabella, both appeared in The Lion King? They were Timon and Pumbaa. Nathan Lane's character, Ernie Schmuntz, greets the sheikh at the auction. He bows and says Akuma Matata, which in Swahili means no problem. And this is a homage to The Lion King, which he played the part in. And the final bit of trivia I have for you today is one of those that you will only know if I tell you. So here I go. Nathan Lane plays the cat, or the voice of the cat, in both the Stuart Little movies. So with this movie, MouseHunt, it makes it the third time that he's been a hunter of mice. That's a great bit of trivia, that, don't you think? There isn't really any music in this movie. Obviously there's background stuff going on. Any music that's written has been thought about, composed, published, and then put out there for you to enjoy. So that shouldn't stop you looking at any type of music and either remembering something from the past or creating something new in your head for the future. I hope you've enjoyed this movie review. If you want to know where my thoughts and inspirations come from, please click on one of the links in the bio below. It'll take you for a closer look. If you want to subscribe to our channel and join our community, hit that button, only once of course, and it is free of charge. If you want to know when the next one's uploaded, strike that bell and a notification will come your way. Comments are always welcome, please leave them and I'll get back to you as and when I can. And I've been Jim Black for the Three Hats Stage Media channel for this edition of Pause for Thought. See you again soon.